Me by saying that you don't understand your own words.
Done. It's done.
What is
I
this
don't know
guy
what words
talking
mean.
about?
I'm just like you. I can't read.
What?
We're the same. I can't read. We're practically the same.
Do something.
I know what he can read though. He could definitely read
Just
those
like
chats
you.
from those chatterbait accounts, but we're not going to talk about that.
Oh.
No way, presupposition Mars is on Chatterbait.
Yeah, so premise one, if logic exists, it requires a sufficient foundation. Do you agree or disagree? I don't know what any of the terms mean.
Why would logic require a sufficient foundation?
What do you mean? Well, if something exists, typically we think there's like a structure to the world.
Typically? So you're appealing to induction for this?
What?
Are you saying that typically if something exists, then there's a sufficient grounding explanation for
Are you
its
saying something can
existence?
exist with no structure?
Structure? What do you mean by structure?
I don't know what words mean.
Oh, you don't? Then I don't know what you're asking me.
Oh shit, I guess we can't argue. How do you debate?
By asking you what you mean so I can respond.
Okay,
That's
so
typically what I do.
so this is how you defeat K. Just tell him.
Oh, he's gonna go back to the defeating thing. Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah.
please.
Because this, see, I told,
Explain
I, said,
how
I
you
called this
defeat K.
out.
Go
I
ahead.
called this out
Yeah,
right away.
yeah.
Did I not? All this guy does in a debate is go, "What do you mean by that?" That's his only move. So this is performance.
No,
this
totally.
is theater.
No, I don't
This
ever
isn't
do
how
anything
real-
else aside from just
Nobody
asking what they
really
mean, yeah.
debates like this. This is just sophistry.
No, totally, man. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interested in case pro.
Busted.
Wait, presupposition Mars, how does it taste?
Bro,
If any of you guys want to defeat K, just tell him you don't know what words mean.
Yeah, wait.
You won't know. You won't know how to deal with your.
Hey,
argument.
me and Mars are willing to.
So you think your argument is successful on the basis that you told me that you don't know what your own argument means?
Yes.
That's your condition
Yes.
for success? Oh,
Yes, because you're a little sleaze who
Right.
just wants to talk about like semantics
No,
rather
right.
than deal with the substance of what I'm saying. I mean, do you want me to look these words up in a dictionary? What do you want?
In a definition? Is that what
Do you,
you're
want me
gonna
to, do you want me to look up the words in a dictionary, or do you want to talk about something that
say?
matters?
No,
Stop
usually
trying
when
to
people
base
like
it.
utter
Just get to the
sentences, they
subtext.
usually have like a concept in mind of like by which they're uttering these sentences. So presumably you're not just gonna like spit out
But I
a
wanna
bunch of
talk about what
statements without
matters.
having a concept in mind,
I
right?
can just Google it. Does that work? Do you want to do that?
You can do whatever you want to provide the meaning.
Okay.
It's just gonna be more
Can you stop
embarrassing for you.
running?
to
All
have
right,
to
that's
Google
fine.
This
You
is
can
gonna
debate
definition
my
of your own
argument.
arguments.
That's fine.
I'm still
can debate
interested
my-
in hearing K's pro-life argument.
See, shut the fuck up. No one's talking.
Okay, so what are we asking here?
I don't know why Dean is like piping up to me.
All right, just let Pre-Suck Mars talk. Come on.
What are we asking?
You want to know what I mean by structure?
No. I was just wondering what the argument for the consequent of the first premise was.
You want? So, are you disagreeing that logic exists? Like, I'm confused. Like, what do you disagree with?
The
You see logic
consequent in the conditional, which was the first premise. What is the argument for it?
So you're saying logic can exist with no sufficient foundation?
I'm not saying anything. I'm asking you a question.
Yeah, but I'm trying to figure out what you disagree with.
Are you asking me what I mean?
No, I'm trying to figure out what you disagree with.
I'm not disagreeing with anything. I'm asking a clarifying question. Did you forget your first premise? It's fine. I can just repeat it back to you.
No.
Oh, okay. So you understand your first premise was in fact a conditional statement, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what a consequent part of a conditional statement is?
No.
You don't know what a consequent is. Okay. You should look that up too. Come back to me when you're done.
Okay, so what do you want to know?
Just go and type what a consequent is.
What,
We could just
can we
tell
deal
them,
with my
let's-
argument though?
Do I
Okay,
what?
so here's the premise one. Logic exists and it's necessary and normative, right?
Oh, so now we're just completely abandoning the original first premise and we're just completely introducing an entirely new premise? Okay.
No, it's the same premise. I'm just wording
It's
it differently.
definitely not.
It's just worded differently.
You just said something completely different.
Look,
It's
I think we
crazy
should be
how you're
charitable.
talking about. Look, why would we be charitable to somebody like people?
No, walk. Like, we should just explain what the conditional is. PMars, it's like this. If PMars exists, then he pinches his penis on Chatterbait. That's what a conditional is.
No, that's crazy.
We can't. I mean, how are you a debater? You can't even get.
And the
past
consequent there would be he pinches his penis on
How do
Chatterbait.
people even watch this guy debate?
I'm actually curious, PMars, if that helped you understand now what a consequent is. Do you now understand what it is?
I don't want to learn. Okay, so
You don't want to learn? Okay.
no, I don't want to know any of these words.
He doesn't want to learn.
No, I like to do arguments. I don't really care about.
You like to do arguments, but you don't want to learn.
Wait.
Okay.
No, I don't want to learn like big words.
You don't want to learn
Just
big
teaching
words.
Rancho though.
I'm not. I don't talk to people like this. I use normal words. So, like,
Right.
what do you want to know? Premise one: logic exists. It's necessary and normative. It's universal, invariant, prescriptive. For
Logic
thought.
is normative?
And you don't think logic is normative?
Why would I believe that?
Because you're like you use logic. Like, wouldn't you say someone's wrong?
How does it follow from you using logic that it's normative?
Well, have you called someone illogical?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if it's not normative, you couldn't call someone illogical. You'd have
Why
to
can't I do that?
Because to say they're illogical would presuppose logic is normative.
No, it doesn't. How does it presuppose that?
Because you're making an authoritative claim if you say
How
something.
am I making an authoritative claim when I say that?
You're saying that there's these rules that are obligated, that are binding on other minds.
The rules don't have to be normative. You understand? Rules
Are
can be
they
just
binding?
descriptions, right?
Are they binding?
Binding in a normative sense?
Yeah.
I don't know. But you're saying they
Well,
are.
if they're
What's
not
the argument for it?
binding, you couldn't say like I'm illogical.
Well, I'm not saying that they are or not binding.
That's
I'm saying
fine.
What's the argument
That's fine.
from your
Yeah,
perspective
yeah.
that they are binding?
The argument would be like a reductio ad absurdum. Assume the laws of logic are not binding. You wouldn't be able to say someone is wrong or illogical, right? You just have to say they think differently. So you understand, like words,
CHL do it.
words have like metaphysical baggage, right? I don't think he understands this. Words contain metaphysical baggage. So when you say like, you're
I
illogical,
think he got a call. He's teacup.
there's metaphysical baggage there that there's these rules of thinking that are binding.
Did you hear me?
minds.
Am I back now? Am I heard?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think the last thing that you were saying was that if I claim that somebody's being illogical, that somehow commits me to the view that logic is normative.
Did
And
you
I'm
do you
asking
know that
to
words?
provide a motivation
Yeah,
for that.
because your words have metaphysical baggage, right? So if you say,
Words
like-
have metaphysical baggage.
Right. Like if I say you're wrong, that would imply there's like an objective standard of right and wrong.
How does that imply an objective standard?
If there's no objective standard of right and wrong, then I couldn't really say you're wrong, could I?
Yeah, you could.
How? In what
You could
sense?
just
would
say
you-
that you're wrong subjectively.
That's a contradiction.
Where's the proposition and its negation?
Well, subject applies to the subject, right?
What?
So,
Huh?
when you say you, that's an object. Do you understand? You don't know what words mean? I thought you were a big expert.
Are
on
you
what
asking
words
me
mean.
about meaning? Oh, okay. So here's
Yeah,
the way
now
to
you're
defeat
fucking up
PMars,
grammar.
guys. So
Now you're
basically, when
fucking
he
up the
asks you,
grammar.
to, you
Ghetto
know, like what you
grammar.
mean by a specific term, just
Yeah.
completely ignore him. Do not tell him what you mean by the terms.
Words like
And this
I
is how
and
you
me,
defeat PMars.
Words like I and me, those are like subjective because they apply to
What does that have to do with my question?
the subject.
Okay, great. What does that have to do with
When
my
you say
question?
you, now we're being objective, right?
When did I say you?
Holy fuck, dude. You are wrong.
In a general sense.
You are wrong.
Yeah.
That's objective.
How
Oh
is,
my
that,
god,
Dumbass.
Charlie's requesting it.
The fuck?
how is that objective?
The word you?
Yeah, the word you is
Yo, what's up,
objective.
Charlie?
So
But how does it
what's
follow
the
from
word,
that?
Would that be an
That
object?
in order for me to make the claim
Is
that
that an
something is wrong,
object?
is what an object?
It's a claim about an object. It's objective.
Something being a claim about an object.
Yeah,
doesn't
there's
make it
claims
objective.
about the subject, like I am.
Yeah, just because it's a
vegan.
claim about a subject doesn't mean
That's
that
a
it's
subjective
objective.
claim.
What do you
Then
think
there's a claim
objective
about
is?
an object. You are a vegan. That's an
Yeah, maybe you're just
objective claim.
confused on what
I'm
the distinction
confused.
is between
Okay.
subjectivity and objectivity. Because it seems to me like you're under the impression that just simply like making a claim
Oh, it's
or
subjective.
assigning a predicate to a subject means that it's objective. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
This is
if I-
embarrassing, PMars.
Okay.
So again, like, where's the proposition and its negation in me saying that PMars is wrong subjectively?
You're saying I'm objectively wrong, and I'm not objectively wrong.
How am I saying that?
You are wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is he saying? What the fuck? Is he good? Like,
I just think, look, I just think you're not tracking. Like, you're kind of wrong here. He's kind of right, and that pretty much sums up his argument. Did I recap that correctly?
Yeah, PMars.
I literally have
is
no
that
clue
correct?
what is he even trying to say.
So if I have like a personal moral code, like let's say I'm a vegan, right? And I eat a vegan meal, that's an objective morality because it applies to me. When I force you,
That's an objective morality because it applies to me.
no, subjective. Sorry, what did I say? So if I eat vegan because that's my personal code, moral
That's not
code,
what makes something subjective.
that's subjective. Okay, well you don't know what words mean then.
I clearly do.
I don't think so. I think it's because you're black.
Subjectivity. Oh, that's crazy coming from a PDF, but we're not going to talk about that. Subjectivity is something which literally deals with like the truth makers of propositions and the nature of such. So what are you talking about? You're talking about application conditions, and those are going to be something which is completely distinct from the truth conditions about a specific proposition.
Your definition necessary or optional?
I don't know what necessity or optionality means in this context.
Well, necessity would mean like
Yo, Mod, stop
optional.
jumping.
I mean, I don't know why that's so confusing. I thought that like I'm
Well,
pretty sure like
you have a tendency
So
of
optional-
using words in a very proprietary manner. So I have to
I
be very
actually
careful
don't. That's actually
about
just
the way that I
straight
answer.
lie.
Well,
That's
I
a
mean,
straight
you
lie.
have so
No.
far with the way you're using objectivity. It's extremely proprietary, very clearly.
It's not. It's It's consistent
Most
with the academic
definitely-
literature.
it's
no,
definitely not.
You're just confused. It's fine.
Okay.
So optional would be like could be otherwise, right?
So you're just talking
Necessary-
about contingency. You're asking me if the definition is necessary or contingent?
Yeah.
The definition is contingent.
Okay, then it's not relevant in the discussion. Can we move
Why
on to
wouldn't it be
something
relevant in the discussion?
Because it's not necessary. It's not binding.
So you're saying only necessary definitions are relevant to the discussion?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
Can you tell me one definition that you've
thought
gave
you were a
that's
good
necessary?
debater. What?
Tell me one definition that you gave so far which is necessary.
That you're black.
That's not a definition. That's a description. Jesus fucking Christ, bro. How many times are you gonna blunder? Like we're at like the 10th blunder in a row. This is really bad.
What would obligate me to not blunder? What authority?
Just rules of reason. You should probably be a rational agent. Not make so many
Yeah, but
mistakes in your reasoning.
That's not an authority. That's impersonal. There's no intentionality.
You
Well, I
guys
don't know what
almost
you
at
mean by
100 viewers, guys,
intentionality.
straight alive.
You don't know what you don't. How does he not know what any word means? He
And
said-
also,
you
are
realize-
you making the claim that me
Every-
being
every
black is a
counter
necessary
argument-
proposition?
Straight alive, guys. Follow
Can
me.
I just point out here that
Wait, can we point out the
Okay,
fact
go
that you
ahead.
just made the claim that me being black is necessary? Do you take that view?
You were such an N-word.
Do you
So
take that view?
Every time I make it, this guy's a massive
Do you
N-word.
take that view? Yes or no?
Every time I say something, he goes, "What do you mean by that?" That's the only thing he's doing.
Do
in
you
the
do you take the view that K being black is necessary?
It's because he's lazy. Why is
Oh,
he
he
lazy?
doesn't want to
It's-
answer that question.
It's genetics.
He doesn't want to answer that question.
He's determined by his DNA to be lazy.
What?
I mean, what other explanation? Haven't you noticed that?
I'm just gonna let him ramble until he's ready to answer my question. Go ahead.
All of his
All right,
questions
keep
are, "What
Mark,
do you
just
mean
answer
by
his
that?"
question, dude.
Have you not noticed that? Every question is, "What do you
I
mean?" by
could
that?
do the rhetoric thing back and forth with him, but
I
honestly, I
wrong?
don't even feel like it. So you just
Am I
you can
wrong?
ramble, and then when
Hey,
you're done
PMars, just answer the
rambling,
question.
you can answer my question.
What can I ask? Can I ask questions and have them answered? Because I've answered a lot of questions.
Oh, you're done with the whole troll thing? You want to get back into the conversation? Why is he thinking about this?
you're the
What are
one
you
who's-
thinking about?
I mean, it's just astounding because you're just.
It's
the one who's
astounding
trolling.
that you're wasting time by talking about irrelevant
You're
nonsense
the one who's not.
for
I
shock
don't know
value.
argument.
Guys,
Have you
I
even
agree.
addressed
That is
my
astounding.
argument? You're not even addressing the substance of my argument. You're
What
talking
the
about
fuck is your
everything
argument?
except.
What is your argument
You're
supposed to be
talking
saying?
about everything except the argument.
So far, you haven't even given an argument. You just gave one
because
premise.
because you keep just distracting with nonsense.
Distracting you by asking you what you
Oh
mean
my
by
God,
your
this is
arguments.
Unbelievable.
That's wild.
You're a sea lion, dude. Do you know what a sea lion
if you think
is?
me asking you questions about your argument is distracting, then that's on you. I can't really help you there.
How do you think it's impossible to use questions as a rhetorical
Didn't say anything about
strategy?
impossibility.
Is it so? Are you saying that you can't use questions as a rhetorical
I'm
strategy?
not saying anything like that.
Well, then I don't understand your point because you're
You
clearly
don't understand my points?
No, because you're using questions
Wow.
as a rhetorical
Is that because you don't know what I
strategy.
mean, PMars?
I'm not even allowed to. You won't even.
Is
let me
the
talk.
reason why you don't understand my point because you don't know what I mean?
So what he's doing is sea lion.
Oh, so it's only okay for you to ask for the meaning, but when I ask
So-
for the meaning, it's a distraction. Interesting.
I'm going to quote Amy Johnson from the Berkman
Amy
Klein
Johnson.
Center
Who the
for
fuck
Internet and
is Amy
Society.
Johnson?
Rhetorically, sea lion is fusing
And
persistent
now he's
questioning.
stuttering while he's reading something which is directly in front of his face. This is amazing.
Sea lion is fusing persistent questioning about basic information easily found elsewhere, like the
You
definitions.
think saying that logic is contingent or necessary is basic information?
or unrelated tangential points with a
What part of that is
loudly,
basic?
with a loudly insist upon commitment to reasonable debate.
Wait, sorry. Do you take the view
I
that
can't even-
the
I
nature
can't even
of
say
logic?
that.
Sorry. Do you take
I
the
can't
view?
even talk.
Well, because the rest of what you're going to say is completely irrelevant. Do you take the view that the nature of logic, right, like whether or not logic is going to be necessary or contingent,
Can I ask
whether there's like
questions?
some foundational like hinge, right, on these logical axioms or not, you think these things are basic?
Can I ask a question?
Well, you can ask me a question after you answer mine.
I don't want to answer any of your questions.
You don't. Okay, then I don't want to answer yours either. So where
Okay.
do we go from here?
But I answered a bunch of yours, and you haven't answered any of
You
them.
haven't answered a single question, actually. So far, every time I
That's
asked you
so
a question,
unfair.
you complained. You didn't answer them.
That's so unfair.
It's unfair? I don't think it's
Yeah.
unfair at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So you
'cause
can
you're
just cry about
black.
that.
Fuck.
Fucking blacks, dude.
And he keeps going back to that.
What?
I can't stand these people. They're awful.
This is what he does. This is what PMars does when he's losing a debate terribly, is he has to say
so post-worthy.
I
Yes,
can't even
say
debate. I can't even get a fucking argument
whatever
out.
he can find out of his little ass to get
You're
shock
acting
value.
like an N-word, so I can't even make an argument. Can you
There-
stop
there you
acting
go.
like an N-word?
Yo, what the fuck?
I mean,
There
we
you go.
understand.
Bro.
We understand you got the biggest lips.
Point, bro. What the hell?
Well, I mean, he's got the
Bro,
biggest
bro,
lips on the
P-Mar, just say
panel.
the hard R, dude. Come on.
You got the biggest lips
No,
on
go
the
ahead,
panel.
please say it. Say the hard
P-Mars,
R.
just
Hard
say the
R,
hard R. You have
Just
I mean,
say
nothing
that
that would be like the maximum shock
Oh
value.
my,
so
wait,
you might as well just say it.
he got a violation.
Yeah, come
Damn,
on.
Merv.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna
I,
put this
I wonder
out.
why he got a violation. Holy.
3 galaxies and I'll debate K if
Hold
anybody
on.
wants me to.
I'm
Yeah,
not wait.
yeah,
W cool
no one
guys.
said
Galaxies.
Galaxies.
Three
Wait,
galaxies.
P-Mars,
on
come,
debate
hey,
K.
P-Mars,
What
come
makes
up
you
on a,
think K
wait,
wants to
everyone,
debate
everyone
you?
shut up. P-Mars, come up on a different account.
Hold on. With W cool guy. W
Can I
boy.
debate
W
Breach?
gifts.
Or wait,
Can I debate Breach?
Charlie, do you want to, yeah, Ari, just shush. Charlie, do you want to step in for P-Mars?
Sure. I want to apologize for his behavior. It's not appropriate for him to say anything like that to Kay.
no.
Pretty despicable, if you ask me. Kay, I do have a question for you, though. It sounds like you're either atheist or agnostic. Is that true?
No, I'm not either of those things.
Do you believe in God?
Yeah.
Oh. What's your qualm with what P. Mars was saying then?
It was just unclear what he was saying.
Okay, I got you. Do you feel like you embrace the transcendental argument for the existence of God?
I don't know what the transcendental argument is supposed to be.
Well, I think you were asking a question to P. Mars early on in the conversation. He was talking about something being fundamental to what can prescribe what reality can and cannot do.
Yeah, it
And
seems like in
That
order
was
to
unclear to you?
Yeah, because in
Okay.
order to understand that, there would have to be some account of fundamentality, which is cashed out, and that was never done.
Yeah, we would just cash it out under what God has revealed in Scripture, and we can observe it through His natural revelation. So when we're using the scientific method, and we are not broadcasting, but thinking of what the future is going to be like, we can be confident that the future will be like the past, in virtue of God holding the uniformity
Thank
of
you
nature
for the gifts. I
together.
appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay, so you're saying that the account of fundamentality is God?
The way God operates the world, yeah, and from a physical standpoint. But then there are other things that are abstract that He would account for.
The way God operates the world from a physical standpoint. So are you saying that God is causally interacting with the physical world?
Of course.
Okay, so can you explicate that causal interaction? How does that work? How does an
Good question.
immaterial object causally interact with a material object.
Yeah, I mean, he created things out of nothing, right? So the mechanics.
Nothing?
That's correct. Yeah.
How can nothing? Are you making the claim that nothing has causal efficacy?
Well, I'm not saying that nothing does. I'm saying that God created things out of nothing.
What does nothing mean? Is that like an absence of properties?
Absence of any type of matter or motion. I mean, God's always been and always
Okay, so
was.
how can presumably then you affirm this kind of view where like at one point in time there was nothing and then at some other point in time there was something. So can you explain exactly how that works?
I think
Thank you. Holy fuck, you're the goat.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think Ryan Mullins kind of, there are theologians that probably have a better understanding of this than I do. But I would say that God was the first thing that ever was. For me to say that he exists,
Oh my gosh.
for me to say that he exists outside of time, I'm not sure exactly how to explain that. But I do know that there needs to be a prime mover to get things rocking and rolling as far as
Okay,
the
so
creation of the universe.
by creating from nothing to something, you're just saying that God is the
Spoke things
primary
into
cause
existence.
of all things which are in
Keep
existence.
guessing, guys. Keep
Correct.
guessing.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I think I would agree with that. There's no
Okay.
issue there. What's the
Okay.
next point?
So, the next point would follow from that is, have you been exposed to the transcendental argument for the existence of God before? Or is this your first time hearing this, Kay?
No, I just got into philosophy, so I don't really know
Oh,
that much
excellent.
about it.
So it's an interesting argument. It's kind of posited by Cornelius Van Til and then later by Dr. Greg Bahnsen. And so essentially it would say that God is the necessary preconditions for intelligibility. So we can't really claim to know things, any fact that you may be acquainted with, unless ultimately we are referencing that
Thank you
fact.
for the roses, Chase.
Unless we are ultimately referencing that fact to God's existence. So God is actually, at the end of the day, when all exhaustive questions are asked, God is what makes an apple, for instance. He's what imposes objectivity on the world so that we can know things. If we divorce God from the equation, then things become extremely relative, and you are relying on your autonomous reasoning to interpret the world. Although you don't have the necessary attribute set to be able to interpret the world in an accurate fashion. Well, maybe you do, but you wouldn't know it, or you wouldn't have
Keep guessing, guys.
the attribute set necessary to be able to actually say a fact is a fact. And that might have been a little bit disjointed. So if you need further explanation on anything, I'm happy to try to supply that.
So in order for me to say that a fact is a fact, I have to assume that God exists.
Otherwise, the fact becomes meaningless, yes, because it would be relying on your autonomous reasoning.
Okay, what's the argument for that?
What's the argument for that? Well, if you are relying on your autonomous reason, if the source of the fact does not have the attribute sets of all-knowing, all-powerful, creator, etc., then the source of the fact cannot establish that the fact is truly a fact, because the
Why?
source of the fact does not have the necessary attribute set to establish a fact.
Right,
For
but
instance,
why would it need to? Why is that the necessary attribute set?
Well, because if you have, take any fact in question, right? If you're the person establishing that,
For example, the fact that I am X feet tall, you
Right.
think that fact depends on God's existence.
the intelligibility of it, yes.
So in order for me to
Right.
intelligibly interpret the facts about my height, I have to assume God's existence.
Well, even I think probably even beyond interpretation. Although I don't think that there's really a fact without an interpreter. So yeah, in order for you to be rationally interpreting a fact,
Wait, there's not a fact without an interpreter? So you don't think
in order
there's a
for it to
fact
be
that...
intelligible. In order for you to be intelligible, yeah.
Well, clearly, yes, I
Yeah,
agree with
yeah.
you. Obviously, in order for
Yeah.
anything to be intelligible, there has to be an interpreter.
Right.
Right. Okay,
Right.
cool. But I'm not, can you just clearly illustrate like the dependency relation that it seems like
Sure.
you're like subsuming within this argument, right? Such that
If-
in order for me to make the claim, I'd have to somehow like depend or
Right.
assume God's existence.
If the interpreter of the fact in question is not all-knowing, and it's completely within your cage of autonomous reasoning,
Mhm.
if you don't know everything,
Mhm.
right? then you wouldn't have it wouldn't
What?
be working. It wouldn't be operating off the grounds of objectivity.
Yeah,
it would only be
it
operating
just
off the
I don't
grounds
see
of
how.
subjectivity.
Yeah, I don't see how that follows. It's an objective fact that I'm a certain height, and that doesn't depend on God's existence. You haven't illustrated that.
How could you have an objective fact if the source of the fact is not all knowing?
It's objective in the sense that the fact obtains independent of what the observer thinks about the fact.
Okay, and how would you know that?
But it's irrelevant how I know. The point is if it is objectively true or if it's an objective fact.
Well-
Asking me how I know is going to be a completely different question about the sort of epistemic scheme that we're going to be fundamentally operating from. But that's going to be something completely different than talking about the nature of the facts, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the epistemic scheme is half the exactly. So the epistemic scheme is half the account for the ontological, the ontology of the thing in question.
Well, I'm saying the ontological question is something a little bit distinct, not completely divorced. However, it's distinct from the epistemic question. It can be the case that there's something which is objectively the case without me knowing about it, right? Like, for example, before humans existed, it was objectively true that the earth existed, but nobody knew about that, right? So clearly, there's not this kind of symmetric dependency between ontic facts and epistemological facts, right?
So that's where I'd push back on you. You would make the assumption, right, that the ontology of things could be known, right? You would have to demonstrate how that could happen
Well, no, I'm not saying. I'm saying that the ontological facts could obtain without anybody knowing about them.
If there are no humans to perceive things, right? I would agree that things still would exist in virtue.
Yeah, and that's
of God,
objective, right?
in virtue of, here's where we're going to disagree. In virtue of the fact that God is sustaining them.
Right, but that's just what the argument is saying, and I'm looking for a motivation for that.
So that's my worldview put forth, right?
Right, but you put it forth, but what's the argument for it?
There's nothing inconsistent about what I'm saying. So obviously the argument that I'm going to put forth is just
it's
going to be...
It's not inconsistency, it's about circularity.
Well, okay, every worldview is going to have its roots, the base of it, the fundamental claim
false.
to it. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Can you name one?
Infinitism is an example.
What's that?
It's just going to be view where there's not going to be this foundational axiomatic hinge, right? At the end of the chain of reasons, for example. It's just going to be an infinite chain of reasons for justification as an example. So it's false that every worldview has this terminus or this axiomatic hinge at the very end. That's just not true.
That would be a problem then, because if there's no axioms at the base of infinitism, then you wouldn't know what reality is.
What?
And so then you couldn't, can you...
So are you saying that in order for you to know that you have to deny infinitism?
You couldn't employ infinitism to know anything, it seems
Why?
to me. Because if there are no axioms at the base of your worldview, then there would be nothing to just prescribe what reality is or is not.
Why can't I prescribe facts about reality without there being this axiomatic hinge in my worldview?
Because then it would just be arbitrary.
That doesn't follow.
Okay, make a non-arbitrary claim then.
I don't have to. I don't have that burden.
Then why do you believe that things would be non-arbitrary?
I didn't say that I believe that things are non-arbitrary. I'm asking you a question about the things that you're telling me. You're saying that it's either going to be the case that a view is going to be axiomatically hinged or it's not axiomatically hinged. And in the case where it's not axiomatically hinged, then it would just yield arbitrariness. And I'm saying that does not follow. So unless you have a motivation for that, there's no explicit reason to accept that that's a consequence of accepting a view where there's no axiomatic hinge.
So here's an example. If I'm going to say that the grass is green,
yeah,
I'm assuming that I'm living on planet Earth, right? And I'm observing reality as it actually is presenting itself to me, or I'm interpreting reality as it is. Okay, the hinge or the axiom is that I can perceive reality. He's getting a phone call. The axiom at play here is that my five senses are mapping onto reality as it is, right?
What?
If infinitism cannot rest on that axiom, then there'd be really no way to know whether the grass is green.
Infinitism isn't a
or if that
thesis
exists at all.
Yeah, but it's not the way that I'm presenting infinitism. It's not going to be a thesis of perception. So when you're talking about how your perception relates to how you come to know things about the world, that's going to be completely something different than talking about the justification that you have for believing in a specific proposition. So it could be the case that the chain of reasons for you being justified in a proposition just regress infinitely, right? And you're saying that if that was to be the case, that would somehow yield arbitrariness. And I'm asking for you to illustrate
In order
that.
for me to know that the grass is green, I have to assume that I'm perceiving reality as it is.
Sure.
Okay.
What does that have to do with the fact that like
bottoms
my
out? That is no longer infinitism.
No, it doesn't fall. What are you talking about? Just because like you are like assuming certain facts about your environment in order for you to know that like the grass is green, it doesn't follow from that infinitism is false. What are you talking about?
There would be no further justification in the example I'm giving. There'd be no further justification.
Yeah, but the example that you're giving,
excuse me, that would be more fundamental than reality is as it is. A is A.
The example that A is A. So now you're talking about, okay, the example that you're giving is something which is like primarily centered around the ways in which our perceptual faculties relate to like how we come to know things about the world. So you're talking about perception as like a sort of episodic or epistemic faculty. That's fine, but I'm talking about justification as a function of like reasons within a specific like epistemic scheme, right? And those reasons, if they were to regress infinitely, number one, it falsifies your claim that every view has this like axiomatic foundational hinge. And secondarily, it doesn't pose an issue, like at least the one that you're talking about. You're saying that like somehow if you accept infinitism, then you're going to have to just arbitrarily assign like, the ways in which you know things about the world. Like, why would that have to be the case? Why can't I be an infinitist and also non-arbitrarily talk about things that I know about the world? Is there a contradiction in that?
When you say that there's an infinite amount of justifications for any belief that you have,
Infinite amount of reasons.
Infinite amount of reasons. Like, okay, if it's not exhaustible, right? And there's always another reason why I know something.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying that there's an infinite amount of foundational levels, or you're not saying that? Or is there an ultimate For instance, I feel like
there is no ultimate foundation.
How okay. What would be the reason that infinitism would even be true? What would be the reason that I should cling on to?
Well, I'm not making a claim on whether or not infinitism is true. I'm just saying that the existence of that view falsifies the claim.
Is it rational?
I'm not making any claims on that.
Okay, well, if we're not making any claims on whether it's rational or not, let's just move on from that.
No, we don't have to. No, because this is a relevant point.
I'm not going to accept that.
You don't. What are you talking about? You don't have to accept it. That's the point.
I know that the view out there may exist, but that doesn't mean that it should. It doesn't mean that it should be qualified, or it can qualify.
Yeah, but this is
to
a
be put into
completely
the
different.
debate as a reason.
This is something completely different. Now you're talking about whether or not the view is actually like qualified to enter into the debate. We're not talking about that. We're just saying that the fact that there are such views, right, without these axiomatic hinges, like literally goes against your claim that every view is going to be something which has a foundational.
Okay,
hinge.
every coherent view. Well, there's only one coherent view.
So you're okay, and by coherency, you're just defining that to be a view where there is an axiomatic hinge, specifically of the form that it is the Christian
that maps
God.
onto the correct. Yes.
Yeah, so then you're just saying something trivial.
I don't think it's trivial.
It's
you may, but you'd have to.
It's analytic. Why. That's just how you define the term. You're just defining coherency to be your worldview. So trivially, if something is not your worldview, then it would be incoherent.
I don't think that's true. I don't think it's trivial.
It's literally analytic.
I'm interpreting when you're saying trivial. I'm just interpreting it as it's not something that ought to be considered as something that's cogent or rational.
Well, when I say trivial, I'm just saying something which is analytically true.
Okay. Well, there are things that are analytically true that should be adhered to.
I'm not talking about adherence. I'm just saying that the claim that you made is analytically true.
So you're not saying it's wrong?
No, it couldn't. I'm not saying that it's wrong. It could be wrong. It could be right, but it's certainly trivial.
So I would guess, from your perspective, what qualifies something as right or wrong?
Look, why are you asking me this?
Because you're the one that's rejecting that the Christian God would be the ultimate reference point for any given fact.
I didn't reject that. I asked you a question about it.
Great. Okay. Well, so there's things laid out in Scripture, right? Obviously, God upholds the world by the word of His power.
You can't quote me Scripture because that assumes or presumes God's existence.
This is what I'm talking about, and this is a good grinding point here, Kay, because in order for you to in order for you to reject anything posited in Scripture about metaphysics, right? In order for you to reject it or be skeptical of it or not accept it, right, as as authoritative, you would have to come to the table with a worldview in which facts could be accounted for.
Why would I have to come to the table with a worldview?
Because if you're rejecting the worldview
I'm not
in
rejecting
question,
it.
or if you're skeptical or not claiming that it's authoritative,
Mhm.
right? Then you would have to. There'd have to be another way in which
Why?
facts, because then you would have no reason to be skeptical
That
of the
doesn't
worldview in
follow.
question. Sure, it does.
My reason is that the reason is the skepticism. What are you talking about?
Well, then okay. Does reason exist separate from God? I'm sorry. Does the foundations of reason exist separate from God, like the laws of
Again,
logic?
That's a complete topic shift. I don't know why you're asking me about my
Not a
views.
so here's why it's not a topic shift.
Can any of you tag people argue without asking other people to present their arguments? Like, let's just say that I don't have any arguments for any of these things. I don't know whether or not reasons exist apart from God. Let's just say hypothetically that I don't know any of these things. Are you able to actually provide like an argument for your view without it relying on me answering questions in a specific way?
The argument is that ultimately what it boils down to is that skepticism is not a rational position, which would be why I would ask you about
And by rational, you're just defining that to be a view which is in accordance with the Christian view.
Well, I mean, we're both going to have a severe, if not virtually 100% overlap on what we would consider something to be logical.
How are you defining rational here?
That which is in accord with the laws of logic, and the laws of logic are ultimately grounded in the mind of God.
The laws of logic are grounded in the mind of God.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
So we are to think after how God thinks, right? And so when we are thinking rationally in coherence with reality, an apple is an apple, all that kind of stuff.
Hold on. The laws of logic are not, when you say ground, right? I'm interpreting that to be some type of metaphysical explanation. So are you saying that God metaphysically explains the laws of logic?
Bingo.
You say yes?
Bingo, yeah.
Okay, so in what sense does God metaphysically explain the laws of logic?
Because the character and the attributes that God has can uphold their objectivity, their immutability, right? If laws of logic are not grounded in the mind of God, say the mind of men does not have the necessary attributes to be able to say that in a way that's objective. Only the creator of the world and the one that sustains the world as it is could actually be able to claim or uphold the fact that an apple is an apple, or whatever fact you want to have in question.
I don't see how anything that you said like illustrated that God is in fact a metaphysical explanation for the laws.
Well, are laws of logic immutable? Are they unchanging? Are they eternal?
Eternal? I don't know.
There's never been a time where something isn't what it is, or there's never been a time where the law identity hasn't been the case, correct?
Depends on if you actually accept the LOI.
The line of questioning here is to focus in on the fact that if these laws of logic, since they are fundamental, unchanging, they've always been the case, right? They need to be grounded in a source that can supply that. So they wouldn't be, the mind of men would not be a
That's just
candidate
repeating
for
the
that.
claim. Can you provide an argument for that claim?
I think it's necessarily the case.
Necessarily? So
Yeah.
like it's logically necessary? Is that what you're saying? Or it's metaphysically necessary? It's
Metaphysically
logically
necessary, yeah.
Why would I believe in things like metaphysical necessity? Can you actually explicate
When it comes to
an
something
account
like-
of,
when it
well,
comes to-
let me clarify my question. Are you able to explicate an account of metaphysical necessity which isn't just identical or equivalent to logical necessity?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I'm just so you're saying necessary, and I'm interpreting that to be like some sort of modal operator, some sort of modal notion, and usually those are going to be understood like they're going to be operating, or operators, I should say, within a specific like system, right? A formal system. So you could have in the case of it being logically necessary, that's going to be operating from like the formal axioms of classical logic. In the case of it being nomically necessary, it's going to be operating from the fundamental laws of nature. And in the case of metaphysical necessity, it's going to be operating off the fundamental laws of.
Well, I guess I'm not sure. That stuff kind of maybe went over my head a little bit. I'm just going to say that laws of logic would be necessary because in order to deny them, you'd have to engage with them.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm asking you what you meant by metaphysical necessity.
Okay, when I'm talking about metaphysical necessity, you're talking about like a metaphysical foundation to like be able to ground the laws of logic. Is that what you're asking?
I'm asking what you mean
Oh, send
and
my
why I
dude
should
galaxy.
believe that those things exist,
Why I believe what things exist?
that metaphysical necessities exist.
I guess I'm not sure I understand the question. Metaphysical necessities. Things need to be. There are certain things that have to be necessary in order for us to.
Yeah, but it seems like you're not really telling me what this necessity thing is doing here. It seems like you're just using these like synonymies. You just keep using like
I don't
when
know
you
what
say have
synonyms are.
a synonym. You're just
Synonyms,
saying
okay.
when you say X is necessary and X has to obtain, those are just synonymous with each other. They're just equivalent.
Okay, well, you and I would both agree that certain things or certain axioms need to be the case in order for us to claim to know anything. Like we have to both assume that the world that we're living is as it is,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so both of us are assuming that we're living in the world and we are perceiving reality as it is. Both of us are going to come to the table with different worldviews in order to justify that axiom, right?
No, I'm not coming to the table with a worldview.
Okay,
coming
well
to the
then you
table
have
with
then you would
questions
have
about yours.
here's the problem. If you're not coming to the table with a worldview to justify the axiom, the world is as it is.
Justify
there'd be-
the axiom? You can't justify axioms.
I don't think that's the case.
What do you think an axiom is?
It would be a fundamental belief that you have.
Okay, and you think fundamental beliefs can be further explained?
Well, yeah, there's more that can be said about it for
Then,
sure.
then it's not
Yeah.
fundamental.
Okay. Well, you're gonna have to come to the table with something that's fundamental and coherent. Like this is the problem.
No, I wouldn't.
This is the problem. So the Christian worldview, there's nothing. So every worldview that we have is going to either have, excuse me, every worldview that comes to the table is going to come to the table with its axioms, right? Now, so that means that every
That's
worldview.
not true. We already went over this.
There are things that claim, such as infinitism, that they don't have any axioms. But I would beg to differ. I would say that there's the axiom that all
It's
things
part
can have
of
an
the
infinite
thesis.
amount of justifications. That
No,
itself
that's
is the axiom.
what are you talking about? You can't just like tag things onto the infinitus and say this is what are you talking? It's literally part of the view that there is no foundational hinge. That's just what the view
Yeah,
is saying.
that's an axiom within itself.
What?
Yeah.
Look,
To say that there is no foundational hinge is an
can't-
axiomatic claim.
no, it's not. How is that
I think it is.
axiomatic?
How you're the one?
Send her gifts. He has 1 minute.
Yeah. How is that not an axiomatic claim? I don't know how else to explain.
Wait, asking me how it's not axiomatic does not tell me how it is.
It's a foundational claim. This is how reality operates. It is the case that there's an infinite amount of justifications.
You can
for
make
any
claims
claim.
about reality without them being foundational in the sense that you haven't.
Okay, well, how they would have to demonstrate. I don't know the ins and outs of infinitism, but they'd have to demonstrate how they know that that's the case.
Why would they have to demonstrate that?
They can't just. Why would I believe the claim if it has no justification?
Well, hold on a second. Whether or not you would believe the claim is separate from whether or
Okay,
not they
why
can make
would
that claim.
if there is no rational justification, there is no reason for it to be adhered to.
Yeah, no shit. That goes
Yeah.
for anything. If there's no
Okay,
rational justification
great.
for anything, then there's no good reason to
Then
believe in it. But
then
what's
there's
the
no
point of saying
reason.
that?
Okay, so whether we believe in infinitism or not, I would have to hear a good reason.
No,
as
you
to
would look. Okay, the reason why I keep pushing back and saying no is precisely because I don't want you to shift the conversation to start talking about my beliefs, because that's all tag pre-suppers do. You guys don't actually have arguments. Your entire line of argumentation rests on whether or not the other person is able to provide
and this is where we're not going to
argumentation.
agree. This is where we disagree, and I think this is where any view outside of Christianity falls flat on its face. At the end of the day, in order for us to have a conversation there has to be an objective standard for logic,
That's-
morality,
why
and
would there need to-
metaphysics.
Why?
If there is not, then nothing can be intelligible, right?
Yeah, but that's the claim, right?
Okay, when you say, you know what, Charlie, I'm not so sure you're right, you have to give a reason why. If you are a juror in a jury, and there's 11 jury members, and they all think that the guy is guilty, and you're the one that's observed all the facts, and you're skeptical, and you say, you know what, I'm not so sure. They're all going to look at you and say, well, why are you skeptical that this guy?
Nothing meant.
You
Why
need to
can't-
come to this. You need
Look,
to come to the
this
table
is
with
just
a
not
reason
what-
as to why.
I mean, this is disanalogous, right? In the context of a debate, that's not what's happening. In the context of a debate, all it is just literally a conversation. It's a special format of a conversation between two individuals,
The king of debate.
where one person brings a view onto the table, and that view is put up for scrutiny, right? So it need not be the case that the other person that you're debating has to necessarily have a view. It's a common thing. It's a common occurrence that people have their own views, but it's not a necessity in order for the debate to occur, right? So what you're saying is just like disanalogous in the example that you gave previously. Also, on top of that, what's the issue with just like, if your whole line of argumentation is that God, like specifically the Christian God, is going to be like this necessary precondition for intelligibility, in order for us to make any intelligible statements about the world, we have to assume God's existence. How would you respond if somebody just said that I can just say the same exact thing with the same exact format, the same exact structure, except I'm talking about a unicorn? So a unicorn is going to be a necessary precondition for intelligibility. And, you know, in order for us to make any intelligible statements about the world, you have to assume the existence of this unicorn. How do you engage with that?
Is that
argument?
worth believing?
Charlie, you stupid.
Well, hold on a
shit.
second. I'm asking you, what's your response to the argument, not whether or not it's worth
Is there a
believing.
rational reason to believe it?
King DRV
Yeah.
has been alive.
The reasons that I have to believe are the same exact reasons that you have to believe in your
Well,
view.
great. Then you just misnamed the thing you're in question is not a unicorn. it's God.
Misnamed? No, it's a unicorn. That's what I'm telling you. That's what the argument says.
Yeah, if it has all the same attribute sets as the Christian God, then you have misnamed it.
What are you talking about?
It's not a unicorn. It's God.
No, I'm telling you that it's a unicorn. And you
Why
can't just
should I
say
believe
that
that?
it's a god. Why should I believe that it's the Christian God?
Yeah, because in order to know anything, right, you would have to assume that God's existence.
In order for you
Christian
to
God's
know
existence.
anything, you have to assume the existence of this magical unicorn.
Okay, so if that magical unicorn has all the same attribute sets as the Christian
Mm-hmm.
God, then it's not the magical unicorn.
No. But if
It's
the
God.
Christian God has
my
all the
God.
sets of this magical unicorn, that it's not the unicorn. It's the Christian God.
Keep gifting, guys. Keep gifting.
So then, therefore, your argument will be false because it's not the unicorn, it's the Christian God. So my argument is true because my argument is actually saying and concluding that you need to presume the existence of this magical unicorn in order for you to intelligibly interpret anything about the world.
Yeah, so it has all the same attributes as the Christian God.
Yeah, but it's not. It's the unicorn.
Okay, how do you know that?
Well, I know because the unicorn has revealed it to me.
Oh, really? When?
Last night, had a conversation with him.
Last night? Oh, wow. That sounds like more like a demon to me.
How do you know that it's a demon?
What do you think my answer is going to be to this?
Because of the Christian God.
Because you can't know anything outside of the Christian
Okay,
God.
so it sounds to me then like you don't actually have an argument then, and you're not
So,
also
but
able
here's
to
the problem,
engage
Kay.
with the
Here's
parody
the
argument that
problem.
I'm giving
when,
to you.
When you say, hey, look, Charlie, you don't have an argument. In order for you to know that that's the case, that would presuppose from your perspective that you are operating from a worldview that can justify facts,
No, it
laws of
doesn't.
logic, etc.
Imad, tell him out. You gotta
Okay,
restrict
if
him.
that's the
It's not
case,
really
then
supposed
if that's the case, if you're saying, you know what, Charlie, it doesn't actually, I don't need to come to the table with a worldview that justifies facts, morality, etc., then I guess neither do I, and the conversation's over, and we can't really debate. But of course, you're not going to accept that.
I mean, there's not really much here that I can accept because you haven't really given much to offer. All you've done so far is just reiterated and restated.
So when
your
you
view
say,
and
here's the-
asserted your view
here's the problem.
without any independent justification.
When you say I haven't given anything that's worth substance or Charlie, you haven't given anything that's worth consideration or that's rational. Again, you are not making these claims in a vacuum.
He's gonna like run me through that infinite, like fucking perpetual cycle of tag where anything that I say, you're just gonna in response say that in order for me to say that, I have to assume God's existence. We know how
Well,
this
you
works.
need to
It's not an
you know
argument.
what? You need to assume a worldview that can justify the facts that you are, or the knowledge claims that you have.
Okay, this conversation is now becoming a circle, so I think we should probably edit here. But here's what I'll say to you. The whole point of me bringing up that parity argument was to illustrate the weakness of your argument. My argument was weak, not because it was false, but because there was no motivation for it. In the same way that your argument is weak, which is why you could not rebut the parity argument that I gave to you. There's no reason to prefer your view over the unicorn view.
This is where we're talking past each other, because again, it all hinges on this.
Wait, let me ask you this question before you say it.
Okay.
Do you think there's a principled reason to accept your view over the unicorn view that doesn't assume your view?
The principled reason would be that you've just misnamed the source of truth.
So you can't.
I think that's a perfectly rational explanation.
No.
If you're saying that I'm wrong, I'd love to hear
again,
why.
I asked you if you could provide me with a principled reason that distinguishes the two views without assuming your own, and you just assumed your own in the answer.
Here's what you don't understand, and actually, I don't want me to say this. It's not like you don't understand it. When you're saying you're just assuming your worldview. We're all assuming our own worldviews when we bring them to the table. But here's where I want the audience and the chat to listen closely to this. K, in order to avoid tag, or the conclusion of tag, is saying that he does not need to come to the table with a worldview in which knowledge is justified. If that's the case, then K is correct, and tag is meaningless.
What?
But if I'm correct, where I'm saying that we both need to come to the table with worldviews that can justify knowledge, then of course that's the case. Then the conversation needs to move forward with K bringing to the table his worldview in a way that I can be skeptical. I can be skeptical in virtue of what is it that here's a good question, K. What is it that you know about reality that God's existence does not jive with?
Pivot. I don't know why you're asking me this.
And that's fine. Okay, if you think that's a pivot, you do not think that you need to come to the table with a worldview that can substantiate any fact, then I would encourage you to think a lot longer about that. And hopefully you'll change your mind on that. But
I appreciate you telling me that. I think what I would
that,
encourage for you for sure is that you actually are able to support your argumentation without relying on other people answering very specifically like structured questions, right? The aim of these questions and the ways in which they're structured is meant to literally shift the burden from yourself onto the other person because of the fact that you're not able to.
You don't think okay.
The way that burden of proof works is that you have the burden of proof insofar as you affirm or like declare a sentence as being true.
Let me ask you this, Kate. How can you be skeptical of any claim unless you have a knowledge of how reality operates?
How can you be what?
How can you be skeptical of any claim unless you're working off a worldview that can justify facts?
I don't know what that means. Unless you're
in order to be
skeptical from a worldview that justifies facts.
So if I go to a magic show, I am going to be skeptical that the magician can pull the rabbit out of the hat. And that's what makes it so entertaining when he actually does. So the reason why I'm skeptical that the magician can pull the rabbit out of the hat is because I know rabbits don't just appear out of thin air. So
wait, are you saying that? Sorry, so let's just take like an ordinary everyday example, right? Let's just say somebody comes up and, Starbucks, you're having a conversation with this person, and then they say that they actually believe that, aliens built the pyramids, right? And then you respond and say, well, you know what, I'm not really super convinced by that. Do you have any proof or evidence for this? Do you think that in order for that person to be skeptical about that proposition, they have to have this this developed worldview with this system of propositions, maybe even a theory of universals, some metaphysical explanation? Do you think they have to have all these things in order for them to be skeptical about that proposition?
Or any proposition? Whether it was aliens or rabbit out of a hat. Yeah, of course. You in virtue of what
That's
would
crazy.
in virtue of what would you be skeptical of any claim?
Just purely on the basis of the fact that they're not like well acquainted with the evidence and they don't have a reason to believe it.
Okay, name. Just pick any fact.
Pick a fact with
Pick a
respect
fact.
to what?
The sky is blue, or whatever fact you want to think of. Okay. And I think the pulling the rabbit out of the hat's a good example. I'm skeptical that the magician can pull the rabbit out of the hat because I'm committed to the fact that rabbits don't appear out of thin air. That's why I'm skeptical of that. So in virtue of what?
I think that could be like a potential explanation for why it's the case that you're skeptical.
Yeah.
But I think the assumption there is that that's the only explanation, which clearly that's false.
What's the no? In order to be skeptical of any claim, it had to be because, well, the claim that's in question or the claim that you're positing, it doesn't really jive with what I know about reality or what I'm committed to. That's why I'm skeptical of it.
Again, that could be like one explanation for why somebody's skeptical.
All right.
I think the host wants to move on, so.
Name one thing you could be skeptical of without it being in virtue of the fact that you're committed to other axioms.
So, Kojo, the chat voted. They want you to debate CH. You don't have to. And you can just continue this if you
I
want.
just want to use like
Definitely not debating this fetus who's like running at the mouth for content.
Well, fuck the poll, guys.
All right.
He's like, CH is like, this is like his biggest day of the week. He's never been on a live with 128 viewers. He's like foaming at the mouth to debate. Like
He was like begging for gifts the entire time.
Literally. This is like the highlight of his whole fucking week.
Kojo, are you sure? Are you sure you want to go into debate him, bro? Like,
No.
Bro, he is.
all right. Kojo, you can just continue with Charlie, or you can debate someone else. As well.
So,
Honestly, I don't even know.
So, Kay, in virtue of what are you skeptical of any claim? So, for instance, the claim that the Christian God exists.
I'm not skeptical about that.
Okay, or we're skeptical of any claim. In virtue of what are you skeptical of any claim?
It depends. That's context dependent. It
Okay,
depends
think
on
of one.
the context.
You want me, in virtue of the fact that the Earth is flat, why are you skeptical of that?
I'm not skeptical if the Earth is flat. I'm pretty sure the Earth is not flat.
I mean, you are certainly skeptical that if somebody says the Earth is flat, you're going to be extremely skeptical of that, correct?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because in virtue of the fact that you trust the pictures that you've seen from space, you trust the authority of scientists, etc., all that kind of stuff, right? That's why you'd be skeptical of that claim, right?
Well, it's just like there's just certain things that I know about the world.
Right. So you're in virtue of what you know that claim that the Earth is flat doesn't line up with what you know. That's why you're skeptical.
In that context, yeah.
Yeah. So when we're promoting tag, what we're saying is,
all right, everyone wants Bridge versus Charlie, and Bridge
honestly,
only has 10 minutes. So
please just somebody else probably debate because
Bridge, go ahead and take it over.
It doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. So
Well, yeah. Seeing as Apollo's 10-minute restriction is up, I feel like he should come do it instead. So let me just go summon the TK.
The king of
let me just go summon TK.
The king of debating. Low tier slave.
It's a bad idea. Let's not do that.
Apollo.
Let's get Apollo up here. Everyone, Apollo's coming.
Apollo versus
Please,
Charlie.
That's how.
All right, Charlie, are you fine with debating the king of debating?
I can't understand.
Charlie, you're gonna debate
right
TKA, mate.
You're gonna debate the king of debating.
You're gonna debate the king of debating. Low tier slave boy.
I'm going to debate the king of debates. Who's that?
Yeah, Apollo.
by the way, I just want
His
to.
name's Apollo.
I just want to make it clear. By the way, I'm not like an atheist or anything. I just think like these types of arguments specifically are really bad.
Yeah,
Apollo,
I wish we had more time, Kay, because
he's Kay's teacher, by the way.
Wait, Kojo, are you Christian?
Yeah.
I wish we had a little more time on this, Kay. And feel free to, if you ever see me live, to talk again. I'd love to continue the conversation. But I think this is getting to a really important point in this discussion. Is in virtue of what would you be skeptical of anything? That's kind of what Tag's getting at here, and it's the case that I believe that, hey man, you don't have any grounds to be skeptical of anything if you can't justify, knowledge or
All right, well, now we have the king of debating, Apollo, TKA, and Charlie. So go ahead, guys.
Charlie, you stupid low tier. You lose to my student, Kojo, the prince of debating, and you think you could take on the king of debating, Apollo? Stupid low tier.
Yo, that you got me there. I'm
Harsh.
not gonna lie.
It seemed
I
that
feel
Charlie had an
sad.
abundance of confusion regarding infinitism. You stupid low tier slave boy.
Okay. Where am I?
What do you think that the infinitus thesis is claiming, you stupid low tier?
This guy made a massive blunder.
Guys, just let Apollo talk, guys. Come on.
The fake pensive.
It seems I've been
We
restricted.
got another restriction.
You didn't even go 1 minute bro, without restriction.
All right, well, we'll just have British come back and then he'll debate Charlie, if you're fine with that.
Sure. Why not?
I think it's because you're saying the S word.
No, it's because TikTok's just scared of Apollo. Bro.
Facts.
Me and Apollo were
gift
just
gift me.
let me up. I'm pensive. Yeah, pensive would not
hello?
say that shit.
Yeah,
Mods,
I mean,
please let
they
British-
reported Apollo, so I'm just going to give Apollo my account.
Yeah, just give Apollo your account real quick.
Bro, can you debate him normally?
I think he's giving Apollo's account real quick. And then,
Alright, bro.
He's passing him the phone.
Okay, anyways, yeah, fuck that, bro. I can't do that accent for too long. It makes me feel dumb. What do you think the infinitus thesis is saying?
Well, I only know it as much as what Kay has described. So I'm not saying I'm an expert on what the infinitist theory is, but it seems counterintuitive to me, because if they're saying there's an infinite amount of justifications for any given truth claim, is that correct, Nettie? Am I understanding that correct?
So, okay, infinitism is just saying that there's an infinite chain of non-repeating inferential reasons, okay? And that's how you're justified in giving credence to something or in holding a particular belief. So the main motivation for infinitism is two different principles, okay? So there's the PAA, the principle of avoiding arbitrariness, and then the principle of avoiding circularity, the PAC. Okay, so essentially, he wants to say that the way infinitism is forged is by the acceptance of those two principles, right? So, yeah, that is kind of what it's saying, but I don't think you understand. I think that there was a little bit of confusion when I heard you talking to Kay about it. I think Kay explained it well. I just think you were a little confused.
Why should I believe that? That's what I'm curious about.
Well, it's abductive. So what he does is he shows how the other theories... So it starts off, obviously, if you know anything about justification, starts off with Agrippa's trilemma, right? Which is the skeptic's challenge towards justification. Then from there, you get your three options, right? So you get arbitrariness, circularity, and then an infinite regress. And essentially, you have the three views: foundationalism, coherentism, infinitism, correlating to each one of those three horns. And from there, you essentially just show that, okay, well, foundationalism can't explicate this piece of data, coherentism can't explain this piece of the data, and so you show how your theory better explains it. So that's how you would come to accept infinitism, is by showing that there are certain relevant pieces of epistemological data that can't be explained by foundationalism and coherentism, such that you should accept the PAA. Well, okay, for example, you could talk about how coherentism can't explain basing relations without serious theoretical cost. And if it's the case that it can't sustain a basing relation or explain it, given its tenets, and can't support a notion of doxastic justification, then you would say coherentism fails to account for some relevant epistemological data that perhaps your theory could.
I don't understand what any of that means.
Does he?
It's a little bit too technical for me.
Does he understand? Maybe you probably need to explain what a Bayesian relation is, because you probably.
Yeah.
Do you know what a Bayesian relation is, Charlie?
No.
Have you heard of that?
No.
Okay, so Bayesian relations are about how a reason that you have is something which becomes the ground for the belief that you have, which is going to be associated with the reason. Does that make sense?
Can you say an example that might be better?
Yeah, there's a reason to help, as an example, right? The reason there is going to be the ground for the belief that you have about helping people.
Okay, so there's a reason to help an old lady cross the street, right?
Yeah. Yes. And so there's going to be an attitude that you have towards that proposition, right? That's going to be what's known as a doxastic attitude. And you're going to be doxastically justified in that proposition because the reason for the proposition is going to be properly based on the reason that you have.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
so the reason that you have to have the old lady to help the old lady cross the street, the reason needs to be rational, correct?
Yeah, it's about rational
Well,
responsiveness.
it has to be a
exactly.
sufficient reason. That's the entire point, is that
Right.
when you have doxastic justification over something, it's that you have a sufficient
Ready
reason
for the
to believe
roses,
P,
Mark.
and that your belief in P is based upon that reason.
Okay,
So, yeah, I would have to-
who would determine whether the reason that you give for helping the old lady cross the street is justified or not?
This depends on certain views you have in the background. But if you're, let's say, for example, you're agnostic, okay? Presumably you would just invoke like the rules of reasoning, maybe structures of reasons to explain how it is that something is reasonable or is reason responsive to come to a conclusion upon. But if it's you, right, for example, someone who runs tag, someone who's a theist, maybe you just say that the way in which you determine if something is reasonable is just if it conforms to God's standards of reasoning. That's it. But yeah, that would just be contingent on some views in the background.
Here's the thing, like my question is automatically going to go to like, are there reasons outside of the Christian worldview that can give a rational reason why you should help an old lady cross the street?
Again, the question kind of just boils down to whether or not you actually hold that view in the background. So if you were to ask me, I would say, yes, I think reasoning can obtain outside of it. And if you were to ask someone like you or somebody else in the comment, like PMars, for example, right? PMars would obviously say no to that, right? So of course, me, who thinks that the rules of reasoning are sufficient, irrespective of there being a theistic figure in the background, yeah, of course, I would say, yeah, there are rules and there are reasons and things that count in and out of favor of holding to a belief that exist independently of that theistic figure. But if you ask yourself for PMars, then no.
Well, we'd have to talk about whether you could give a rational justification for why it is the case that you ought to help an old lady cross the street.
Right. But what do you think? Okay, so when you say rational justification, presumably justification just means being reasonable in holding to, correct?
I could bite on that, yeah.
Right, okay. So the debate between like infinitism, foundationalism, coherentism, that's a debate about the structure of reasons themselves, right? And so the way the infinitist structures reasons is just kind of like an infinite line that goes on forever. The way the coherentist does it is a circle, and the foundationalist is a stopping point with a line that goes, but stops at some point, of course.
Say the last sentence again.
This is the axiomatic hinge part that I was talking about, Charlie. Do you understand?
So when you're saying the coherentist does what?
It's a circle.
It's a circle.
Yeah, exactly. So it would just be like this. First of all, the coherentist also reinterprets justification to say that it's a holistic property of their system, right? They want to say that justification is not actually asymmetric, how it would be formulated within the foundationalist or the infinitist thesis, but they want to say justification is symmetric rather than asymmetric. So, for example, I would have 20, maybe 30 beliefs, right? Just to conceptualize this for you. You could have like 20 or 30 beliefs, stick them into this circle, all right? And if it's the case that they meet a particular set of coherence conditions, you're justified in those beliefs, okay? You can implement a new belief or
thank you, Mar, for
and if that belief
thank you so much, Mar.
If that belief were to cohere with the ones that are present, given a set of conditions that resemble coherence, then it would be the case that you're justified in that belief. So
how do beliefs cohere?
Yeah, there's conditions that resemble coherence. So that would be standardly resilience to revision, logical consistency, probabilistic support, and inferential depth.
Right, but in order to this gets into the problem, man. Like, if you're a coherentist, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna give a logical reason for why I think the apple is in the room with me.
Okay.
Like it coheres with the axioms that I hold about how reality works and how I can interpret reality, etc. The problem is that the assumptions that you bring to the table. Sure.
Oh, thank you for the gifts, man.
All right, I'm back.
The problem is that the axioms that you have to bring to the table, like I'm observing reality as it is. That's how I know. That's one of the reasons why I know there's an apple in the room with me.
Okay.
Like, how would you justify that belief that the reality is as it is?
Okay. Well, first, coherences don't take that you can be justified in isolation, at least standardly. They want to say that coherence is sort of negligible or inescapable when it comes to justifying beliefs, right? So an example could be something like this. Say you have the belief that there's a box in front of you, right? Mm-hmm. They want to say that there's certain background beliefs that you have that cohere with that, such that that belief is justified. So this could be a belief about spatiality, like what it means for the box to be spatially present in front of you. This could be a belief about what it means for an item to be a box, right? But what they want to say is that the belief independently, okay, which is that there is a box in front of me, is not going to be justified in isolation, meaning there's going to be some background beliefs pertaining to the belief at hand that allow it to be justified.
Right. I wonder how they justify, as a coherentist, I wonder how they justify those background beliefs, the ones that are more fundamental to this.
Oh, right. Thank you for the hand.
Well, remember, so justification obtains as a holistic property of the system. So you would essentially just say something like this. Okay, so you put those beliefs about the box and what it means for it to be present spatially in front of you, and what it means for it to be a box itself, right? You would put all of these into a little circle, like I said earlier, and you would essentially just see, well, does it meet my set of conditions? Do they raise the probability of each other? Can I make inferences from this belief to another belief in order to confirm its status, right? Yeah, stuff like that.
Right. So in that model, it might be logically coherent, right? But that doesn't mean that the model isn't ultimately based off your arbitrary assumption of how reality operates.
Well, the model is just based off of what beliefs you input. So if I'm forming beliefs, which I just take to be acceptance of a proposition being true, right? Essentially, you would just input those acceptances into a system, and if they meet your conditions, then you have justification as a holistic property of the system.
Yeah, but those belief systems that you input in, like the bricks that you're making the wall with, like those bricks are, who says that they're the case?
Well, that's not, okay, this is the problem. So that's not really an attack of the coherentist system, because the whole point is that they're restructuring justification to be symmetric, like I said earlier. And so they view it as a holistic property of the system. It doesn't happen prior to the system. It happens and obtains by virtue of the system, holistically, like I said.
Right, but that means that the whole system then is based on arbitrariness.
Well, I don't necessarily think that's arbitrary. I mean, whatever you say when you mean arbitrary,
yeah, like
you just mean baseless.
Well, yeah, like, hey, here I'm gonna put these fundamental beliefs into this, these fundamental bricks into this wall.
But fundamental is confused there, by the way. That type of thing is rejected. They're not talking about fundamentality. They're saying that it obtains as a holistic product of the system, like a property of the system itself. So when you say fundamental, they don't really accept that type of language.
Well, no fact in isolation is, from what I understand so far, the coherentist would say, hey, look, you can only believe things to be the case in virtue of the fact that they're coherent, that the web of beliefs is coherent, right?
Yep.
But the inputs that make up the web, such as reality is as I perceive it, I live in three-dimensional space and time, like those things, those are, in my opinion, from what I can tell so far, arbitrarily put in to the web of beliefs.
Why is that the case?
Who says that I live in 3D space?
Well, no, what would make it justified is its coherence.
Yeah, the model, like the web of beliefs, could certainly be coherent.
Like, do you think that some facts about...
That doesn't mean that the inputs that are in there are not put in there arbitrarily.
Wait. All it is accepting a proposition being true, right? So whether or not you do so baselessly, the point is just that justification, or what it means to be reasonable in believing it post-integration, that's what justification is. So whether or not it's inputted arbitrarily, that's not relevant, right? Maybe there's a contention. Maybe you're trying to get like the problem of isolation. I'm not sure if you know what that is. But yeah, you could, in theory, have on the coherentist system a web of beliefs that's entirely false but still consistent.
Yeah, that's fine.
He's talking about experiential C evidence, by the way, Nettie. I don't know if you've heard of this in the Foundationist thesis, but experiential C evidence is going to consist basically in propositions about perceptual content. So that's going to include things like introspection or just introspective experiences in general, memories, things like that. Now, those kinds of things, right, they're going to count as experiential C evidence. But it's not the case that you necessarily have to have a belief about those states. You could just have other types of beliefs, right, like perceptual beliefs or, even non-inferential beliefs that you have, like with regards to your perception about physical objects. And in that way, you can be non-inferentially justified on the basis of like a specific set of relevant propositions, which are going to be associated with them. But it's not necessarily the case that you have to be like acquainted with them at that specific time.
Right. Wait, but for the Foundationist, that would be, if it were the case that it wasn't coherent, or if it was the case that the status of the particular belief or its justificatory status was not epistemically supported, like derivatively from inference by another belief, you can still be justified non-inferentially. It would just be like unideal or unoptimal.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
I think I'm trying to understand this a little better, Nettie. So like a Christian could be a coherentist.
Sure.
Like an atheist could be I'm sorry.
You could. I mean, I don't really see. Presumably, most Christians are foundationalists. That's how I conceive of it. I mean,
right.
I think I met some theists who are coherentists. I'm not sure if it's entirely coherent, because remember, like, I don't really do theology, or I didn't bring that up, but I don't do theology, so I'm not sure if it's entirely consistent. But I've seen theists who are coherentists. Yeah.
Okay. But so that's just like the mode. And I may be using this word wrong, but that's like the mode of epistemology you're going to employ, whether it's coherentism, infinitism, or foundationalism, when you're interpreting facts. Or
those are all three about the structures of reasons, right?
Okay. And so there are different worldviews out there that could adopt or embrace coherentism, right? But at the end of the day, what's ultimately going to matter is, do the web of beliefs that you hold, are they arbitrary or are they justified?
Is that meant to say that everything that's arbitrary in any context is always going to be unjustified? Because like we explained earlier, like let's say you arbitrarily input something into the system, like you select this belief, right? First of all, I don't know about your take on this, but do you think that people arbitrarily select beliefs, or do you think that there's always a basis for your belief?
I mean, I would say that you at least have tacit. Whether you can express it or not is a different issue. But yeah, I'm sure that there's who knows why
like,
some
people
people believe what
that
they
you hold
believe.
your belief, right? Because the other thing that's to be explained with basing is that basing is asymmetric, right? It's also directional. So when I say that, let's say I have
When you're saying symmetric and asymmetric, can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, that would just be structured like this. So for justification, it would be that a reason A explains a belief, right? And that the belief doesn't explain the reason. That would be asymmetric. Symmetry would be like a belief can explain this belief and justify another belief and then another belief, and then they all trace back. That would be if it's symmetric, because then you can have like a belief A be justified by B and B be justified by A, C, D, E, whatever. Okay. But if it was asymmetric, it would be that a reason explains a belief and then the belief doesn't explain that reason.
A reason explains that belief and then the belief doesn't explain that. So what would be an example of that?
Like let's say, for example, I asked you your reasoning behind why you think that your perception is reliable or something, right? At some point when you go down this chain, you would give, rather than a belief, you would give a reason. So you wouldn't give some acceptance of a proposition being true, you would give reasoning. So you give something that counts in favor of it.
Okay, so that would be asymmetrical?
Yeah, if it's the case that your reasons explain a belief and your beliefs don't explain the reason, yeah.
Your beliefs don't explain the
It would be asymmetric relative to the belief.
Yeah, exactly, like to the same core set of belief and reason that's being presented within the structure.
Okay, so if I say my perceptions are mapping onto reality, and I gave the reason that would be asymmetrical, what would be an example of an asymmetrical reason for that?
You could just say that your perception tracks truth or something. Let's say that's a belief you hold.
What? My perception tracks what?
Perception tracks truth. Like you could say that your perceptual faculties seek out truth or track truth, whatever, right? And then you can give some sort of explanation that justifies this. So you can say, okay, typically it's the case, and ignore it if it's bootstrapping, it probably will be, but I'm just trying to give you an example. Yeah. So, like, okay, for example, I could say, it's the case that 90% of the time that I invoke my perceptual faculties to form beliefs, it tracked truth, and so therefore, that's my reasoning for giving acceptance to the proposition that my perceptual faculties are reliable.
I can just give a super clear example for this. So imagine if you you're walking in the forest and you see like fire, for example, right? You might say that the perception that you are having of the smoke that's coming from the fire is a reason for you to form the belief that there is a fire, but the reverse isn't true, right? The belief that there is a fire is not a reason to necessarily believe that there's smoke, because you could have fire without smoke. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Which is also just to lend credence to the fact that you want reasons to be the explanation for your belief, right? You don't want to just, when you reduce it down all the way, you don't want to be explaining beliefs with beliefs. You want to explain it with reason.
Okay, so when you're saying, so you hold to an infinitism.
No, I don't.
You do not. Okay, all right, I gotcha. Okay. Well, interesting stuff. That's interesting stuff. I think I'm starting to get my mind around it a little bit there.
No, neither of us do, by the way. We're both found-herentists, but we think that infinitism is a challenge against what you said previously.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
Okay, when you say infinitism, is it, well...
Because you don't think...
Of course it's a challenge, but is it a challenge that you think is a good challenge? Or like a rational one?
Yeah, I mean, infinitism it's growing in popularity. It's becoming increasingly convincing to a lot of philosophers nowadays. So it's like a pretty good reason to consider the view, at least as a serious view in philosophy.
Yeah. Why? But why?
Because the experts seem to believe that there's good reason to think that this is like a successful view. And I'm going to...
Why do they think that?
Well, that's just kind of what he described to you in the very beginning of the conversation.
Remember I said like the PAA and the PAC, the principle of avoiding arbitrariness and circularity. Right. The acceptance of those principles typically leads one down to the infinitist thesis, right? So presumably if you're asking me why do people accept the view more often, well, it would be because they accept these principles. Maybe they accept like the foundationalists being unjustified and holding to like the non-origination principle, and they hold to the inheritance principle. Like there's different reasons, but mostly it's the PAA, acceptance of the PAA and PAC.
And the PAA and PAC again the PAC is what? Like you can't...
Principle of avoiding circularity.
Principle of avoiding circularity. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so well, okay. I'm gonna go shower, but yeah, okay. You guys have fun, I guess.
Yeah, you better shower, dude. You stink.
Anywho.
Oh god.
Two dick riders.
Bro,
Bro, it's
justified
crazy.
in that
Me and
belief.
Bridge always
Justified in
teaching
that
these
belief.
low tiers, bro.
All
It's
right.
always
Does anyone
me
want
and
to?
Bridge.
Does anyone want to debate King CH or no?
Yeah, just put me up here. I'll debate anybody. Anybody else will debate with me.
Bro, genuinely, how old is this kid, bro?
Yo,
No,
okay,
They wanted to
imagine
be-
CH versus DRV, bro.
Okay, I want to debate
Oh,
Death.
we can set it up right now, honestly.
Wait,
Let's get DRV
guys,
up here.
get
My
DRV in
dad
this,
has
guys.
a question.
Yeah, we can get DRV up here. I'll
Ask
debate
your
you.
question, Mar.
Okay, go ahead, Daddy.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Is I don't know what if it's I can't remember
That's a
the word.
child. Why are we getting corrupted?
No, that's not. No, she just sounds young. It's
Oh.
not.
No, I think she's autistic.
No, I'm sorry.
No, I know her. She's not.
Whoa.
Okay, wait, I invited her.
No,
back
I think
to
she's
my fault.
literally
Go ahead,
admitted to
Daddy,
it.
You can
Yeah.
talk.
Oh, can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's just, I don't know what really infinitism is. Is this kind of related to Hume and the idea of, if you have a
Roy, you're up, bro.
Well, bro.
Is that what it is, though? I mean, is it like the idea that to justify something, you need a justification for that statement, and that just keeps repeating? Is that? Because I'm not sure what it is.
It says that they're non-repeating.
Wait. Let Zany say it, bro. Zany, explain the view to
What?
Yeah, well, let Zane explain it.
Zany,
Okay.
explain.
Are you just like
He's explaining
curious on
what he
infinitism
wants to
is?
know what infinitism is.
Yeah, I don't know the term. Is
Okay.
that was kind of like, is it really back to like a set theory in the sense that you can't have a complete set theory without an outside. You
No,
either have
so
a
look,
justification for the set.
infinitism. Okay, yeah, infinitism is just like a theory of justification in which you have to have like an infinite set of reasons in favor of a belief. Now, these reasons have to be non-repeating.
Okay.
And obviously, they have like, I guess, the principles of like PAC and then PAA, like principle of non-circularity, and then principle of, I think it's non-arbitrariness or something. Where did Roy go? What the fuck?
I have to let King lit up.
Hey, host, I'm going to drop down. Thanks so much for having me up. Kay, pleasure speaking with you. Let's talk
thank you
again
so
soon.
much.
Yeah, no worries.
Absolutely.
By the way, Mar, what you're talking about is something different. You're talking about Gödel's incompleteness theorem. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. Is it kind of does it kind of pop up at the same time, or just
something completely? No, that's something completely.
Yeah, PAC, principle of non-circularity.
Three galaxies in our debate.
DRV.
Infinitism is supposed to be a response against what's called Agrippa's trilemma, right? So that's going to be the circularity condition, the foundational condition, and then the infinite regress. So that's the whole reason why Klein, that's the guy who developed infinitism.
Yeah.
That's the whole motivation behind infinitism, is that he wanted a response against Agrippa's trilemma. That's
why the PAA and the PAC exist, because they're both in reply to coherentism and foundationalism.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, Omni, I know, certain people pronounce it differently. Some people say Gödel, some people say Gödel, whatever.
I think it's Gödel, isn't it? What's the proper way?
I mean, whatever. Yeah, whatever.
Gödel.
Wait, let Lex back up, bro.
Yeah, we're gonna let Lex up.
Okay.
Three galaxies.
Thanks a lot, though. I appreciate you guys' help.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Wait, can we drop more
Lex,
for,
what's going on, guys? How the hell are you?
Alright, three galaxies out the debate.
Roy up here?
Let's get Roy up.
Good stuff, guys.
No, let's get TT up here. So, CH, you want to debate lit or DRV, maybe?
3 galaxies. I'll debate lit. I'll debate DRV right now. If he wants to.